Hey ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. As always, it is Nick here, back with your daily crypto news and analysis, and today we're going to be talking about the entire crypto market. So sit back, relax, and before we fully jump on into this video, I do just want to ask guys, could please leave a like on this video. It does help the channel grow immensely, and of course I always do greatly appreciate it. Now, with all of that in mind, I hope everybody is having a great Monday. The vibes are going very well today. Things are, looking pretty good in the market, but I do just want to really quickly warn you guys of a pullback on Bitcoin. Yes, we are expecting it, and yes, altcoins will have a little bit of a downward effect. Now, with all of that in mind, I'm wishing and hoping for everyone to have an amazing day today and an amazing week ahead. I'm sending good vibes to everyone, but for the most part, today we're going to be focusing on some altcoins, specifically XRP, XLM, Zilliqa, and even Hbar. I'm going to address those, in the later part of this video, but first I do want to talk to you guys a little bit about the structure of Bitcoin and the overall market. So let's just dive in and let's talk about a few things. Of course, Bitcoin having a little bit of a nice day, sitting at about 47.5K. We hit about roughly 48K, almost exact, before eventually having that little bit of a downward trend. So again, we're sitting pretty still, on Bitcoin, nothing too crazy for the most part. We're going to be addressing that, but first off, we do want to address a few, sort of factors. So first off, the dollar. I have been watching the dollar closely, as you guys are probably all aware of. This goes back to 2020. This is where the high point for the dollar really was, going off of course, those nice lows from 2021, basically. And here we are, right? The structure is rebuilding. There's a lot of strength in the dollar. It's actually very bearish for crypto and even stocks. It means a lot of individuals are kind of moving their money into the US dollar. But I do believe that this is going to change eventually. I think that it's going to hit a little bit of, this nice resistance point and have a deep correction. But we just don't know where that is. Currently, we are hitting resistance at around 99.38 roughly. So we would hope for a massive correction from here. But it looks like we are, finding a lot of support at around this 97.74 level, with a little bit of a strong impulse off of that point. So I'm watching the dollar throughout this week closely, of course, in comparison with the S&P 500, the NASDAQ, and even the Dow Jones. We really want a lot of weakness, on the dollar, because that's when a lot of the rally throughout, risk assets do start to begin. More so, stocks and even crypto will have that nice rally point because a lot of money is actually flowing into these other assets. Right now, it looks like a lot of individuals are hodling the dollar currently. The funny thing about this is that this is actually, during this time, it's funny because, the US dollar is increasing in value, but look at the 10-year yield. I mean, this is absolutely massive in terms of strength on the weekly. This is on the weekly chart, guys. So, we hit that bottom level going back to March of 2020 when, a lot of individuals were out of risk assets. This continued to rise up drastically and have almost a bull market effect. You also do see the summer lows when a lot of interest was out of the crypto and stock market. But now we see a lot of interest within crypto and stocks, and more so risk assets and risk investments. This is actually very good for us. But we still need other factors to play along, more so the dollar having that drop in value. Now, all while we are watching this, so I actually didn't even look at the S&P 500, the NASDAQ, and even the Dow Jones in terms of their charts today, but on the weekly, guys, you do see where we currently are. We are breaking above a significant point, that 618. I told you guys multiple times that that was a key level for us to really kind of break over. You guys do see us breaking above that on the S&P 500. This is extremely bullish, by the way, because the last time that we were actually above this in a good range was going back as far as like February 2nd. Now, obviously, we met, with a massive downward trend here, but right now there's actually a lot of strength within the S&P 500, so this is actually really good for a nice little rally point. I think that we are going to see similar effects that we did to the all-time high before. I think that the next major target point here is obviously the 702 before we even get ahead of ourselves and say, hey, we're going to a new all-time high. But I do believe that this is going much higher. I think that we are going to around 5,000 plus for the S&P 500. So there's going to be a lot of interest and money flowing into stocks and crypto going forward. I do think that inflation is going to be a key selling point for a lot of individuals to kind of run with their money and put it into things that are appreciating. Even the NASDAQ is also seeing a pretty good day overall. I've been addressing the 618 for a lot of these assets, but, or I shouldn't say assets, but markets in general. And technically assets as well, because even Bitcoin, like I've addressed the 618. But If we are talking about the NASDAQ right now, it is breaking up above that 200-day EMA hurdle, which I told you guys about before at about 14,000, almost 300. Here's that level currently. So again, the last time that, we've seen things like this breaking out, it goes back a very long time. I mean, in history, this goes back to April of 2020 after the March drop. So the last time that we were actually above these levels, we were in a massive bullish impulse on stocks. So I am watching the NASDAQ closely. I'm watching the S&P 500 closely, and I'm even watching the Dow Jones closely because it looks like we are almost repeating that 2020 March crashing point structure to have a nice impulsive bull run for stocks. This is going to be very good for, of course, crypto as well. Now, also, even in terms of the Dow Jones, so again, here's that 2020 March structure that you guys do see on the chart. Obviously, we didn't have that much of a deep correction similar to that time frame. It just means that the structure itself is actually kind of holding up fairly similar to that time back there. But you guys obviously see that these are in a bullish formation and nice upward trends currently. I mean, even the Dow Jones is printing fairly good here. And again, the next major target point is at 618 up at around 35.2K. I do believe that we will see all-time highs on stocks by around, I would say, the middle of April if uptrends continue like this. This is actually very good for us, again, because we will see rallies along the board for risk assets. And that is also why I do believe that there is a lot of interest within the 10-year bond. The 10-year bond pretty much tells us how much interest there is in these risk investments. So this is very good. I think that this is ultimately very good for the macro view on Bitcoin. Now let's talk about the big warning signs ahead for Bitcoin, and obviously this does take into the accountability of the micro views of even stocks as well. And I do apologize if you guys do hear my dogs barking in the background. But when we do talk about the micro view for Bitcoin and stocks in general, could we see a pullback? 100%. When we are talking about on the daily and things like that, we will have, little impulses. Like even this is like on the weekly chart itself. If we're talking about like this high point here to the bottom here, it's like about a 1% pullback. But this is only, in terms of stocks and stuff, like 1%, or even if we come down to retest, this is almost like a 2% pullback. Things like that are actually a little bit impulsive throughout the markets and will cause a little bit of a slight correction throughout the board. But when we are talking about Bitcoin, the major concerning factor to me, and when I talk about stocks, we only will have like almost like a pullback of like 2%, maybe 3%, maybe at the tops, like maybe 5% pullbacks. But when we are talking about Bitcoin, we are currently at this significant resistance point of about 48.3K. Now, I'm not going to say and give you guys investment advice or anything like that. Like, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm going to be telling you guys that first off. But I will say this. Like, if I was looking to de-risk, around here would be pretty much that time, in this market where I would de-risk my, maybe longs if I was long on anything. Which, again, there's a lot of things that I am hodling. I'm not de-risking currently just simply because I have been hodling those assets for a very long time, so I'm still in significant profit, but I do have a few trade positions that I am taking a little bit profit off the top just to kind of rebuy the dip if we do see it. And the reason for that is because this current level that we are really sitting at in terms of resistance, we've been at this point in time previously. This actually takes us back to, again, October. This is the point where I was telling you guys about, leading up to this point. Even going back as far as like March 22nd, 21st, around this range, I was talking about this level as well. But we are currently at resistance, obviously, and when we are talking about this, we've seen a pullback from this level before. In fact, it wasn't anything crazy. It was like maybe a 3% pullback before we continued that rally. But there is also times in this market where we have hit this significant resistance and from the tops of these candles have pulled back over almost 18%, right? And even if we're going off of the top of this candle, it's about 18.88%. Now, if we do see that same exact move, we will be testing the demand zone of around 39.6K, which is a point that I've told you guys that we will most likely retest eventually if we don't break over significant levels. Right now, we are at major resistance points. This is also why I've been telling you guys that I really want to be above this point. I even said this in comparison to October, where I did want to see this massive impulse above this point that we are at currently, because it is a concerning area, especially for Bitcoin. Am I still bullish on Bitcoin and crypto? 100%. But I'm just talking to you guys about on the micro views. Like, we could capitalize on the micro market as well, and really kind of address things that are happening currently, especially in terms of the viewpoints for the next day or the next week, etc. So right now I am watching this concerning level perfectly in comparison to stocks and things like that, and I do believe other technical analysts are also watching this level closely. Shout out to Rickus for this, but he's talking about that is a neutral or bearish bias, is waiting for 47K. Would not surprise me if this happens and wrecks all those people when that does happen. Something to keep in mind, we will track the data and TA to keep updated. And here is that update. So obviously, macro view takes us to 100K plus. I'm actually around the same level of like almost like 120, 150K per Bitcoin. I think that is the topping point for, of course, Bitcoin. Now, just so you guys know, in regards to the level that we are at currently, this brings us back down to around the bottom of the candle that we are currently printing on the chart. And this is on, I want to say, so this is actually on the 1 week. So here we have the 1 week candle, and we can actually see the bottom of this, candle being around like 46.7K. But I actually see us having a deeper correction and pulling back to about like 40.5K. Most likely that is around like, this area down here, sitting at massive demand going back as far as like the 2022 structure. That's like around currently this range here, which is still like around like 41K, roughly around that same area. I think that is a strong demand area to really kind of pull back to, kind of correct off of, and then have that nice impulse back up, similar to what we did during September. Now, when we are talking about a lot of altcoins are looking very bullish. In regards to XRP, XLM, I'm going to be addressing these two, fully, because they are at significant levels, or ranging around significant levels. But you also see them being met with resistance. And I'm just saying, the last time that we have seen resistance like this, we have had a pullback. And this is, a pretty deep pullback. I mean, overall, these are, capitalization pullbacks that you can really kind of capitalize on, because these are 32% pullbacks throughout the altcoin market. Again, this will bring us down to these significant levels of roughly around 62.5 cents almost. Again, that is if we have this nice pullback on Bitcoin. Everything is not guaranteed, of course. I'm just telling you guys ahead of time before this does happen, or if it does happen technically. But this is about a 16% pullback on Bitcoin, which will technically lead us to around maybe possibly a 32% pullback. I wouldn't really say that it is going to be a 32% pullback. We'll most likely come back down and test major support at around 70 cents, which is still roughly around like a 23% pullback. Or if we just kind of test like major support going back as far as like the February timeframe, it's about a 16% pullback, which would seem reasonable. Same with like XLM though. We tried to break over that 24-cent hurdle, which I've told you guys about is massive resistance for us to really kind of flip bullish. Again, similar structure as XRP. We really want to break out of that major resistance point, but it is being met with resistance. The last time that we've seen resistance here, we had that nice pullback. So again, I'm just telling you guys ahead of time, maybe now's not the time to be buying any altcoins. Just prepare for anything like that. But again, similar structure. If we do have a pullback, we'll most likely come down and test major support. Here's a 12.65% pullback, but we'll most likely come down and test that 19.5 cent level, aka that 18% pullback. But considering the fact that Bitcoin is about to have like a 16% pullback if we do target that level, with Bitcoin dominance ranging around, I actually haven't even checked out the Bitcoin dominance level currently. So about like roughly, 42.9%. So this is actually still fairly bearish in terms of the dominance chart. But I do believe that we are, targeting some nice, support at around the 42.64% percent level. So we might actually have a nice impulse here to retest, this 50-day EMA up here at about like 45.5%, which will most likely bleed alts a little bit more. So technically we can come down and possibly test major demand at around like a 25, almost a 26% pullback. Again, Zilliqa, one of the strongest altcoins this, past week that we've seen. Again, we'll most likely see a strong pullback along the board. This is why I told you guys not to buy this if it was, doing this massive pullback. excuse me. I told you guys to prepare for a pullback or a correction. This will most likely test this last fib level here before, of course, if we do break it, testing the 200-day MA or EMA, sorry, which would be about a 35.47% correction. And of course, last but not least, Hbar. I know everyone loves this one in terms of price action. If this does have that corrective state similar to other altcoins, yes, we will come down and test a deeper point. This will most likely come down and retest this bottom fib level to test those demand zones again. This is about a 22.93% pullback. It all depends on, how alts really react. We got to really pay attention. This is why I do keep capital on the sidelines. I take a little bit of profit off the board because we can't predict exact percentages, but ultimately speaking, the last time that a lot of these altcoins were at resistance levels around these, areas, we have seen a pullback realistically speaking. So again, here's the resistance level on Hbar. Look at the resistance level going back as far as like June. If we see that pullback going back as far as June, this was a rough pullback, by the way. So this was actually a deeper correction than anything else in this market because we were in a crashing formation. But check out the percentages off of major support or even this bottom structure here. This is like around roughly a 26% pullback to that major support level. So again, it's all in how this market is really going to react if Bitcoin does have that corrective state. But I do believe that Bitcoin will have that slight pullback along the boards before having that massive rally upward, which again is expected. So this is exactly why I'm still hodling a lot of my hodl positions, and I'm preparing for the inevitable, which is, hey, are we going to smash through resistance on Bitcoin? Are we just going to continue to 50K plus, or are we going to have this 16% pullback? That's the question in the room right now. That's the $1 million question as well. I would say a confirmed breakout here would be a break above 50.7K because that is the last real, hodl or not hodl area, but risk area that I would be feeling comfortable taking hodl positions to, of course, the all-time high. So again, we have to watch Bitcoin closely throughout the week. Yes, I will continue to update you guys along the boards every single day. But with that being said, I hope that you guys all enjoyed this video. If you guys did, definitely leave a like, subscribe to notifications on if you guys want more free content. You guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord down in the description below. As always, up to you all. Have a beautiful day or beautiful night wherever you guys are in this beautiful world. This has been Nick. Peace out, guys.